Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Ohio EPA's webinar, Assistance and Resources from Ohio EPA and OSHA's On-Site Consultation Program. My name is Helen Miller with the Division of Environmental and Financial Assistance here at Ohio EPA. I will be moderating this morning's presentation with Ohio EPA's Samira Deeb and BWC's Keith Bullock.
All right. So good morning, everyone. I'm excited to present today alongside Keith. Keith is with Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation's program. It's OSHA On-Site Consultation Program. We're unique because we're both housed within a regulatory state agency, but we aren't regulators or inspectors. Our programs exist to help businesses understand and comply with regulatory requirements that at times can be tremendously complex to understand, specifically for smaller businesses that don't have, just somebody on staff specifically for environmental consultation. So I'll be presenting on how my team can assist small businesses comply with environmental regulations. And in the second half of the webinar, Keith will present on OSHA's consultation program. If questions do come up, behind the scenes, I do have my teammate, Miranda. She'll be answering your questions. So let's get started. We'll get started with a poll. So we can kind of get to know you a little bit more. How about you kind of let us know which of the following best describes you? Are you a consultant, government or nonprofit organization, a business owner, environmental health and safety, or other? So I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll.
Okay, I've launched the poll, so you can go ahead and make your selections. Okay, and I'm sharing the results.
All right, so it looks like the majority, almost 50%, fall in within this sector of environmental health and safety. A lot of government or nonprofit organizations. Okay, so this is great. Just want to get to know you a little bit, know the audience. And to get started, so I'm with the Office of Compliance Assistance and Pollution Prevention. From now on, I'll be referring to it as OCAP. So first of all, I have to say that we're free and confidential, and our goal is to assist you in achieving compliance, reducing waste, and saving money. So I'll start off with giving an overview of our compliance assistance program, how you can reduce waste, get recognized for environmental stewardship, and explore potential funding through our programs. So this is an overview of all the services of our compliance assistance. If you're unsure about what environmental regulations apply to your business, you can schedule an on-site or virtual visit where we can assess all sources in your facility for applicable environmental regulations. We identify a permit requirement. If we find out you do need a permit, we can assist you in the application process and fill out the forms and perform all the calculations. I think a lot of facilities get really overwhelmed when they see what an application for a permit looks like. You know, it can go from 10 pages to 40 to 50 pages. If an environmental question comes up or you need help filling out a report for Ohio EPA, say you got something in the mail, you can easily use our hotline or live chat feature, and that's on our website, and that allows you to receive immediate assistance. So that is something that is very accessible to anyone, and there is the confidentiality still remains within the hotline and the chat feature. In addition to the services we do offer, we do actually go beyond and provide, our unit will work on publications and guidances and fact sheets. In addition to that, we do host webinars and conferences, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So in regards to my program, OCAP, within the compliance assistance, our really main goal really is to help you understand Ohio EPA's air, water, and waste regulations. So in the next few slides, I'll discuss some of the ways we can assist. But due to limited time today, I won't be delving specifically into all the permits and all the regulations. There's actually a webinar on August 16th from my program that will delve more into the air, waste, and water compliance assistance. We'll have a link to that at the end of the presentation. So we'll start off with air because air is the most requested service for our program. A lot of businesses don't understand the regulations. It's actually, the Clean Air Act is one of the most complex pieces of regulations passed. So we basically help businesses identify what sources or activities at their business would require an air permit or require a de minimis calculation. And a de minimis calculation basically demonstrates that you don't need an air permit. My team actually developed 4 rules of thumb in the ways you can identify if a source needs a permit or needs to be evaluated for a permit at your site. So anything with a stack, vent, or dust collector, anything that uses solvents, paints, inks, adhesives, anything that burns fuel, any source of combustion, and then anything that causes smoke, dust, or odors. So paint booths, grinding operations, dry cleaning, anything that has can create dust. As you can see here, these piles of aggregate or conveyors, roadways even. So a lot, because of the dust that's generated from these activities, actually create particulate matter, which is a criteria pollutant, which is regulated by the Clean Air Act. So when we help you identify an air source that is a source of pollution at your business that doesn't fall within a permit exemption or is de minimis, we can help you with the application process, which can include pretty complicated emission calculations. They're called potential to emit. And if required, we can also perform single source air modeling. Other ways we can assist you in regards to air, if you already have a permit, we help you prepare reports if needed be, setting up monitoring and record keeping, also responding to notices of violations. It's important to note that OCAP can't actually assist with Title V facilities. Those are huge facilities that emit more than 100 tons per year of a criteria pollutant. But we do our best, basically anything that's limited, we're limited within the air, complex air modeling, and then anything that requires a PE. So next we'll be looking into water assistance. So in the surface water program, that's probably our second most frequently requested service in our program. So we'll help you identify permit exemptions, notices, which will potentially include NOEs and permit applications if required, if we find out that you do need a permit based off your activities at your facility, whether it's, rinse water that you have, process solution. I think one of the, even equipment cleaning, people don't realize that that water needs to be contained. And then in addition to that, stormwater is probably one of our most requested services. Actually, many businesses don't realize that stormwater rules apply to them. So activities that take place outside at an industrial facility, like material handling or storage of goods, are often exposed to stormwater. So the runoff from this activities actually can lead to discharges of industrial pollutants into nearby storm sewers and water bodies. So because of this, certain industrial activities, also construction sites, are required to get a national pollutant discharge elimination stormwater permit from Ohio EPA. We can help with the permit process. In addition to that, we also receive a lot of requests for assistance with electronic discharge monitoring reports, are called EDMR. And next, we'll be looking into waste assistance. So our team really helps a lot with questions regarding both solid and hazardous waste. We receive a number of general questions regarding the disposal and recycling options. A lot of them actually come through our chat and hotline. It's kind of, as they come up, they'll jump on the chat or the hotline and, want to know what they could do, how to dispose of, how to recycle the material. So we can assist businesses in identifying what regulations apply and when required, assist in obtaining their hazardous waste ID number. So some facilities were required a hazardous waste ID number. In addition, we actually get a lot of questions about transfer stations or transporting waste, composting, scrap tires. And I think one that's really big and applies to a lot of facilities is the universal waste rules. And so we're talking about, the batteries, paint waste, antifreeze, lamps, anything that contains mercury. Those are huge in regards to applying to many, many industries, but there's also specific regulations on how to manage those. And next, I will kind of be talking about in regards to, a lot of times facilities don't even quite know who shows up to their site in regards to an Ohio EPA representative. So one of the first questions I think it's good to ask is, are they with hazardous waste? Are they for air pollution? And a lot of times we see is that, inspectors show up because of a public complaint investigation or a neighbor, and we're talking, odors, dust, or smoke from a stack that's visible. Somebody's driving by, a neighbor smells an odor. And then the other times though you would see an inspector at your site is because of a periodic inspection. If you already have a permit and it's codified into the permit where there's an annual inspection. So my team is good at has a good working relationship with Ohio EPA inspectors, and we can facilitate conversations with the district staff and ensure all appropriate steps are taken to achieve compliance. So basically if there's an NOV related concern that you received from an inspection or a complaint, we of course can communicate with Ohio EPA inspectors to figure out the best path to compliance. And as always with confidentiality, we won't communicate with the Ohio EPA inspectors unless we have your consent. So our confidentiality is actually codified within the ORC. It was actually, it was started off with the AIR program within the Clean Air Act in the 1990 amendments. But basically, anything that we discuss in regards to environmental compliance is held within confidentiality and not subject to a records request. There's of course an exception to every rule. So if we see something that's egregious, poses clear or imminent danger, or is criminal, we do have to breach confidentiality and report what we see. All right. So you're probably wondering how you could reach out to us. So we do have the hotline. There's the number. There's a chat that is on our website that is live. You can access both the hotline and the chat Monday through Friday from 8 to 5, or you could directly reach us at our district offices. So we are strategically across the state, from northeast to southwest. So for example, if you are in Bowling Green, you would call Tom or Jeremy. And these are your district OCAPers. These are your, this is my team, the Environmental Assistance Unit. And in regards to having a good relationship with these experts is a good way for your business to have, a go-to essentially in regards to asking questions, general questions about compliance. And like I said, we do publications and fact sheets. Our Compliance Assistance Conference is actually coming up. It's a 2-week event that delves into compliance across all media. And that is going to be actually at the end of September 26th. And that's definitely a very valuable event to the regulated community. So if you want to go beyond compliance now, the rest of the presentation, I'll be talking more about our reducing waste, and that's part of our program, also the pollution prevention. So our P2 assistance, we have an experts that actually will come out to your facility and identify and evaluate waste and emissions and find reduction opportunities that are unique to your business. So if you have been considering taking a more sustainable approach and just don't know where to start, scheduling a P2 visit is a pretty good way to start. And so this is actually one of the more exciting programs at the agency. So the Ohio Materials Marketplace is an online platform. So it allows businesses and organizations to connect. And basically, if you have a material that you would typically throw away, it could be somebody else's material that they could use in their and remanufacture. So the idea is to promote a circular economy where materials are diverted from the landfill and are remanufactured, recycled, reused. Some of the materials that you would find on the materials marketplace are the polystyrene foam, scrap cardboard, fencing, shelving, wood crates. So we have over 1,000 actually organizations right now on the Ohio Material Marketplace platform, with about $4 million of 4 million pounds of goods exchanged. So next is we want to recognize obviously all businesses that go beyond. So we do have the E3 program. So it's encouraging environmental excellence. And in addition to that, we have E4 and E3C. So E4 is in education and E3C is recognizing communities. And in regards to the E3 program, we do have different levels. There's platinum, gold, silver achievement. There's an online application. You can, pretty simple process. And in regards to, the businesses, universities, organizations all can apply. And you receive the flag, and it's highly sought after, truly. And in regards to our other side of our pollution prevention, we also have recycling and litter prevention grants. So the cycle is in November through early February, and it's an online application process. It's pretty competitive. And some of the previously funded projects would, the tire amnesty events, all the big ones really recycling equipment. And in regards to available funding, we do have a match where basically the market development, if you want to put in a recycling line in your facility, we do match up to $200,000 in grant funding. And if you want to learn more about the recycling grant funding or Ohio Materials Marketplace, so this is our recycling and sustainability unit management staff. And then here's just an overview of all the compliance assistance and pollution prevention program at Ohio EPA. So in regards to environmental assistance, a lot of people come to us with, hey, I'm not sure where to even start. So that's where a lot of people will start when regarding to requesting services, but then, we are expand to looking into sustainable options, being part of the Ohio Materials Marketplace, providing workshops and conferences and technical materials such as fact sheets specific to their industry. So if you do have any questions about Ohio EPA's compliance and pollution prevention program, please put them in the chat and we will definitely address them. But at this point, I'm actually going to hand it over to Keith. And then I do want to remind everybody that there is a webinar August 16th. It is titled Environmental Regulations of Businesses in Your Community. And that webinar will delve more into the air, waste, and water regulations. So thank you all, appreciate it.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. That was really helpful. Are we going to start with the survey question first?
We can. Do you want to go ahead and advance the slide there? Or do you want me? Okay, yeah.
There we go. Sorry about that.
Okay, so our poll question here is, relying on common sense is the best advice for keeping safe and healthy at work or at home. So please select one, true or false. Okay, and I'm going to share the results. There you are, Keith.
That's beautiful. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, beautiful. Hey, let's just stay on the slide for a minute. So 63% of our group says common sense is the best advice. And you know what? It's not. Common sense is not the best advice. It is okay advice, but it's not the best advice. And the best advice, of course, is to use engineering controls, things that common sense might not apply to everybody. You know, common sense is not common knowledge. People have different backgrounds. People have different educations, work experiences, all this stuff. So common sense, while it's used a lot in saying, you know, doing safe things, you know, why didn't you use your common sense? Well, common sense is not something that we should rely on as the best advice for keeping a workplace or even at home, you know. We want to use experienced people with a broad range of knowledge that can be applied to the workplace, that maybe have experiences that you don't, that can offer you advice and problem-solving techniques and help you with your program management so that you can, you know, get a program that's even better. And that's kind of what I wanted to start out with today. It wasn't meant to be a trick question, but it was meant to kind of explore, you know, what are some of the misconceptions of common sense as it relates to safety. All right, so with that, we'll close the poll and we'll move on to the meat and taters of this program here. And as we have a little bit of a lag here for the slide to move forward. There we go. Okay, so the objectives of this little program here is that we're going to talk a little bit about what an on-site consultation visit is, what a virtual consultation is, understand the concepts of what we do at OSHA on-site consultation, and provide some examples of successes in both construction and general industry. We have a lot to cover in a very short time. One of the things that Samir was talking about was the concept of free advice, confidential advice, and you know what that means to you as an employer or as a consultant or somebody with the safety and health and environmental in your name, in your title, job title. What we want to be able to do is kind of from the safety standpoint, give you an option to, you know, ask for help and provide you with what you need. What is your needs? What are your needs? Excuse me. So what is your employer? What is your supervisor asking you to accomplish? What are your goals for your facility? You know, do you need help understanding what some of that is? So we look at a full service scope of visits. We have limited service visits. You know, we're going to do what you want to do. We are not on any kind of fishing expedition. We are able to review your workplace in a way that makes sense. And so that gives you the opportunity to ask questions that, you know, you're not going to be hurt by asking. When I say, you know, hurt by, you know, our program was meant for you to educate yourselves to understand what regulations apply. And a lot of the stuff that we do in the OSHA on-site consultation program is really informal in our training. We ultimately will provide you with a report, and we'll go into detail about what exactly that is. encouraging you to have employee participation through the process. It's always great to meet with owners and plant managers, and people in charge. But it's really great to also open any kind of activity that we do to your people, your employees, because then they can see the activities that you're doing, what you're working on, and how you can bring them into the conversation. So a virtual visit is always an option. We can do on-site visits. You ask us to come on site, we'll meet with you at your facility. Virtual visits are always an option. We can set up a time that's convenient for you and meet with you virtually. We can look at different elements or procedures or activities within your facility. And then we could just focus on those things. It doesn't necessarily have to be an on-site visit. It could be a virtual on-site visit. And we do that by very similar to this webinar. We just kind of click and there we are. We connect. We discuss your priorities. It's a very great way of doing it, and we'll talk more about this as we move forward. The concept that we do on the on-site, the virtual visits, is that we'll send you a link. We use Microsoft Teams, but it's very similar to probably what a lot of you have done already in different aspects of your life, whether you're meeting online with a doctor virtually during COVID, or you are doing some other activity. It is what it is. It's a meeting. It's a virtual meeting. We can bring people in. Sometimes we'll bring people in from different offices on the same meeting. Different facilities may have different structure of the employers, supervisors that want to be a part of it, but they may be in different locations, right? Owner might be one location, another facility down, Cincinnati or something, or somebody from Columbus wants to join in. So, what we try to do is, do a walkthrough virtually and kind of point out things that are problematic and share that information with the people. And so while one person might leave a virtual meeting to take a camera around, the other people, the consultants and other persons from different facilities or supervisors can look in and see what we're kind of looking at, and then come up with a procedure for addressing them. And this is just a concept that we've used a lot during the COVID situation, where we were trying to help people. And we found out that just meeting with people on site and doing things virtually over the phone is just a wonderful way, cost-effective way of getting certain activities done in a quick and efficient way. Maybe not good for all activities, because eyes on site are always preferred. Being able to talk to people, as you're moving through the facility is really helpful. But this is just an alternative. I want to make sure that we haven't lost the opportunity for using virtual consultations at all. So I'd like to talk a little bit about ergonomic injuries. At DWC, there's a lot of offerings. We have ergonomists that can help you identify situations, conditions that are ripe for repetitive motion injuries or awkward postures that could result in injury. So, ergonomists are a wonderful free resource that we can help you connect to. And, a little bit about connection. The on-site consultation program is part of the DWC. It is part of the Department of Labor. We are kind of a hybrid between the state and federal government, in the sense that we were put here to try to initiate activities with small to mid-sized businesses, so that you can ask questions and have access to information that you might not otherwise know where to look for. And so ergonomists are one. Another one we'll talk a little bit about is industrial hygienists, and they're another one. Because, as you walk through facilities and you look through, OSHA 300 logs, and you're identifying hazards, and you're seeing that a lot of the hazards that are occurring are our slip, trip, fall incidences, our overreaches, are, kind of fall within the gambit of a lot of, ergonomic issues. So construction companies, we can, work with both small contractors and large ones. Less than 250 employees is really our focus. We can assist both subcontractors, general contractors, and including the subs under their control. Subcontractors must ask the GC for permission when we do the activity. So these are just some of the prerequisites for some of the construction-based activity, should we get into that. Anybody on this webinar should, with questions, should just kind of send them in, and we'll direct you. I'll make sure personally that you get to the right person. It's not me necessarily, but it will be one of my counterparts, and could be in the BWC at their safety and health people. It could be in the OSHA on-site consultation program section. And then who knows, you may even have a question or a request to do something with federal OSHA. And I'd be happy to, be a liaison for you towards their compliance assistance people. So whatever the need is, we want to be there for you and be able to, answer that question. When we do a consultation, whether it's virtual or in person, we're looking for the imminent danger that we abate immediately upon seeing it. Does it happen often? Not really, because employers do a pretty decent job of making sure their employees are in good shape. What we find a lot more are serious findings, places, things, hazards that are identified that maybe have been overlooked, have just occurred, or maybe have been missed during a systematic review. I mean, nobody's perfect, and that's what our program is all about. We're not about trying to find faults. We try to find fact, and then where you're missing stuff, I give you the information that you need to address it. We'll do that walkthrough with you, and we'll identify hazards. We'll categorize them into serious, other than serious findings. And then sometimes what we'll do also is provide you with a list of other findings and recommendations, which is a beautiful piece of our report that identifies, proper, let's just call them management system, or proper activities that you can do to increase the efficiency and effectiveness of your program. So the written report will come to you a few days after the visit, depending upon how busy the office is. That's usually could be up to 10 days, but it could be quick. Findings are explained, and then corrective action procedures for serious hazards are required. And this is a point that I want to just kind of talk briefly about. When we see something serious in nature that OSHA would qualify as a serious hazard or a serious citation, we're not there to cite you. We're there to identify the hazard and help you toward a corrective action. What we'll agree to, you and I, you and whomever you meet with, is a corrective action that you will deploy within an agreed upon time frame, usually 40 days from the visit. During that time, we want to establish an interim protection where nobody can get hurt. But ultimately, within 40 days, a corrective action from you and a document in some form of documentation that will provide to you a format for that in our report. You send that back to us and say, hey, Keith, where we were missing that guard on this machine, we fabricated the guard, or we bought it from the manufacturer, or we fixed the hazard, we corrected the hazard, and here's when we did it and how we did it. And that's really the essence of what we need from you. I mean, it's not really rocket science. It's pretty straightforward stuff. So, sometimes people say, well, using your program, is it something that I should be worried about? What, OSHA requires the hazard abatement of all serious injuries. If a serious hazard is not corrected and attempts made to, are not, taken seriously by the employer, a referral will be generated to OSHA for potential enforcement action. So, you can't just take our information from our program and say, thanks for the serious hazard update, and we'll get to it when we can. Well, we want to agree to a reasonable approach for corrective action and an interim protection from immediate injury from that issue. So I say here in the last bullet, getting struck by lightning is easier than getting referred to OSHA, because it doesn't happen very often at all. So it's one of those things I want to explain to you, that it's there. Just like in the EPA program, the OCAP program, where, if something's egregious, if something is criminal, if something is, potentially any of those things, well, they have the same mechanism. See, these programs are similar, and that's why we're doing this outreach, because a lot of you wear the same environmental health and safety hat. So why not bring together both of these agencies, OCAP and on-site consultation, and let's help each other through this. So one of the things that we'll do for you in the other findings and recommendations portion of our report, just meeting together, is give you options, give you recommendations that we see perhaps in other companies have deployed that work for them. Talk to you a little bit about a management program, because really, if you get down to it, knowing regulations are wonderful, but knowing how to implement a management program. If you know regulatory issues, but you can't manage your program, then you're not going to be as effective. So our goal is to give you some of that regulatory info that you need for your site, but at the same time provide some advice for management program advice. And that's with all these bullets, as you can see here. It's a little piece of everything that helps you get better at what it is you do. Because ultimately the goal is not to see injury, not to see environmental degradation, not to see employees miss work days because of an injury. And then at the same time, ultimately the bottom line is training your staff, your employees to be self-sufficient in safety should be ultimately the goal. Otherwise, you're constantly having to manage in a way that requires you to always be on guard, which is is an option. But it wouldn't it be great if empowerment was taken by your employees that would respect and continue to operate under your safety program rules? So what about calling OSHA consultation program? We're confidential, right? But does federal OSHA know which companies have used on-site services, OSHA on-site services? Can a company remain under the radar? I hear this question posed to me quite often. Usually it's the phone call to me that says, hey, I have a question for you. What if, some scenario? Staying under the radar is a concept that, I put it on here because I wanted to be honest with you, to tell you that you can stay under the radar if you do things in accordance with the regulations, right? If you have a good program, then you can stay under the radar. If you have a poor program, the odds of you becoming a focus of OSHA on a enforcement inspection are higher. What's going to bring OSHA out? An employee complaint. What's going to drive an employee complaint? An employee that's not being given the proper guidance, perhaps, or the proper communication regarding certain things in the workplace that maybe offer a point of frustration to that employee, and then maybe they get dismissed and they're angry and they want to do and they have some kind of issue that they're an axe to grind. Okay, so these are the things, and of course, what also drives OSHA inspections that we know is that injuries, right? Reportable injuries. So, an employee goes to a hospital and they stay overnight. There is a requirement of the employer to make that report to OSHA, and then OSHA will address that with you, which could trigger an inspection, and typically does trigger some analysis of what happened and a documented response. A lot of times we are brought in, the OSHA on-site consultation program are brought in to assist the employer during that aftermath. And a lot of times that means meeting with us, okay? So where do we find us? Where are we? Well, we're easy to find. We're on 2 different websites. You could look at the OSHA website here, or you could go to the BWC website. And when you're at the BWC website, you go under employer requests or employer activities, and you can. There's a couple of buttons that you push in order to get to the safety portion where there'll be consultations available to you, and you'll have your choice to ask for the OSHA on-site consultation program, or you can use a BWC safety group too. They also provide safety and health consultants that you may use. We're both providing you with similar features, similar capabilities, Our goal is for you to have people that are not injured and that we can help you identify hazards and correct those in-house so that, your injuries are low, if not nothing. And that is the ultimate goal. So a little bit about our on-site consultation program. We're federally funded, maximum 80%, 80, 90%. That fluctuates obviously a little bit based on certain things. But the BWC also kicks in the state portion. So we're really a federal program that's run on a state agency level. And that's really what we do with the OSHA on-site program review. It's a couple of things that federal OSHA compliance is focused on. Maybe you've heard about this. Here we are in the getting towards the end of summer, dare I say it, but the Heat Illness Prevention Initiative is still going strong, and OSHA is focused very heavily on making sure that there are resources that employers devote in order to prevent heat stress issues. And it's very important that you're addressing that in some policy and program that can help alleviate those concerns. We have a trenching safety initiative going on. OSHA will stop and review those situations as they come upon them. And of course, let's not forget about the Safe and Sound Week, and which is coming up actually in about another week. Safe and Sound is federal OSHA's way of saying to all employers, big and small, hey, take a time out and let's have a little stand down for the safety and health of our workplace, and let's try to organize maybe some informal trainings or maybe some formal trainings, and let's get together and let's address issues that we all know are commonplace in the activities that we do, and let's remind ourselves how we can keep safe, and let's bring in some guest speakers to address certain issues. This is the stuff that once a year OSHA reminds employers, let's do this, and there's a lot of opportunities. If you go to the OSHA website, there's a lot of opportunities in the state of Ohio that you can join and maybe virtually or maybe in person. Obviously, they also have a national stand down for fall protection annually. They've been doing that for construction for a long time. And that's done annually in the springtime. Remember too that we assist companies in VPP partnerships. We have a lot of activities that we do with different groups, different alliances, and so forth. So we enjoy doing that. The alliances are great, and we encourage you, if you are on this webinar today and you are representing some alliance or entity like that is interested in getting together for something for your industry, let's talk about that. So here we have getting started virtual consultations, any consultations. You can call those numbers right up there. If you'd like to send out an email, you can click on either one of those addresses. I'll make sure that your email gets funneled to the correct people. And of course, Melissa Linton is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to use her as a person of point of reference. She's a personal friend and a great person who's always interested in helping. That said, love to hear any questions that you might have, any concerns. Don't be afraid to ask. And if you want to share something with the group now, would be a great time. I also want to just reference one thing. We have industrial hygienists that are available to you just as safety consultants. We can provide hearing, noise surveys, air monitoring. All that stuff is for free. So, that saves a lot of money, and it'll help you quantify what's going on at your facility so that you can, make the effort that's needed in order to address whatever regulatory requirement you're under. It's good to have a quantifiable way of understanding whether a certain regulation applies, right? And that's kind of what we do. We're here to help, and we enjoy helping. And there are a lot of us out there. It's not just me. I'm just representing one small faction of the OSHA on-site consultation program, which are about 12 of us. And then there's, the rest of the Bureau of Workers' Comp Safety and Health people. And there's probably about 70 or 80 of them. So if you do the math, not a lot of people, but certainly enough to help you if you need help. And we're there for you, and we encourage you to reach out. We don't come knocking at your door. We are a service that has to be requested. And that's what the most important thing that I want to make sure you understand is that, this is only going to happen if you make it happen. And so encourage you to do so. It's questions. I'm done now, so feel free. Do we have any questions? Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Samira and Keith. And we're going to answer a few questions that have come in. Again, if you have questions still, please send those in through the questions pane. Keith, our first question is, how does the Public Employers Risk Reduction Program differ from the OSHA on-site program?
Well, that's a great question. So, Public Employer Risk Reduction Program is a separate entity. They're housed within the BWC, and their focus, their mandate, is for public sector employees. So that means any township, city employee, county employee, any of those kinds of government workers would be subject to PERP as a source of regulation and as a source of consultation. They do both. So PERP will also do accident investigations, fatality investigations, but they'll also provide training and assistance for very common issues like HAZCOM and lockout, tagout, and whatever else is required based on your workplace. I used to work for PERP many years ago, and I can tell you that they do a wonderful job. And if anybody has any questions on that, feel free to send those questions in to our emails, and we'll make sure that they get to the appropriate people in PERP. Thank you.
Okay, our next question is, what's the lead time for a noise or IH survey?
Well, that's going to depend. I would say to you that that's going to be on a site, sites. I don't know. I would say that the honest answer is probably 2 weeks. That would be my guess, 2 weeks to a month. And I tell you why I say that, because it's kind of like feast or famine a lot of times with IH work. One day we'll have like a lot of requests, and then some days we won't. So our response time will be faster. But we can also provide you with people or provide the industrial hygienists from different locations to cover for people that get saturated. So I would say to you, use 2 weeks as a ballpark. But I would say to you, we could probably respond faster if needed. So that would be the answer to that question.
And there's another one on noise surveys. Can you explain what's involved in a noise survey briefly?
Well, a noise survey is something where an industrial hygienist will go into a facility and they'll take a listen to what's going on, and then if they feel that the decibel levels are high enough where they may want to trigger a full assessment, they'll put together a plan with you that addresses exposures to people that are going to be most commonly impacted by noise, and they'll put on some dosimeters onto individuals, and they'll actually take a dose of what that exposure is in noise, and they'll help assess based on a time-weighted average what their exposures are, so that you have a quantifiable number that you can prove to a third party, like an OSHA, that you've done your due diligence to find out whether or not, what your decibel levels are here in the workplace. And then, when they do stuff, when the industrial hygienist completes that task, they'll leave you with a plan that will help you address a training component, help address an engineering control component, and of course, lastly, the TPE. So it's a great program. Our industrial hygienists are awesome, and they save companies lots of money, and they're usually, smartly. I use them as much as I possibly can, and I always include them when necessary in my safety consultations. If you ask for a safety consultation, always remember that the industrial hygiene issues are in the background lurking, and we're looking at them. So if we don't address them, or if we need to quantify them, we're going to do that with you through an internal referral to our IHs. So be assured that it's part of the consultation process that I spoke about earlier. Thank you.
Okay, and Keith, a question came in on the size of businesses this on-site consultation program's available. Is it only open to small businesses, or what size of businesses?
Well, the program was created for small to medium high hazard industry, which is kind of an open-ended sentence, isn't it? There is a program, there is an amount of employees that we look for, but I don't want to dissuade any employer from using our services. In a perfect world, 250 employees at a single location qualifies as a small business. Greater than or less than 500 employees in multiple locations qualify as a mid-sized business. Okay, so the answer to your question is going to fluctuate. What size is your business? Are you nationwide? Do you have other corporations with or satellite facilities within your corporation that that might be included in that number? Well, it's possible, but you might not have a lot of input with them, or they may not leave you with a lot of assistance, and yet you have a high amount of employees that maybe won't qualify. We don't want to leave anybody out, but what we will be is careful is how we schedule. We've got to give first priority to the small business, so we will do that. But if you're a larger corporation and you need help, nobody's going to get turned away. Thanks.
Okay, and Keith, I'll give you one final question, and then I'll have one for Samira. What's the best resource to get a new safety program started within a company that doesn't have a current program?
Oh, call us. Let us work with you to determine what OSHA regulations apply and help you create a management program that addresses the hazards in your workplace in a way that reduces the hazards and makes employees more able and capable of participating. Call us is the bottom line.
Okay, great, thank you. And Samira, I have one question for you. What if I've determined a unit at my facility needs an air permit, but the unit's been installed and is operating? Will I be fined by Ohio EPA?
Thanks, Helen. That's actually a really good question and a common question that we receive. And reality is that's the case in many situations where there's many units out there that don't have the permits that they need to be, and Ohio EPA inspectors don't have boots in the ground looking for what's permitted, what's not. So when those situations do occur, are identified that a permit was needed, but this unit was installed in 1992, which basically you would submit the application, and the way the Division of Air Pollution really has been handling it is they double the application permit fee, basically. So for typically a unit is $200, so it would be $200 become $400. Will a notice of violation be issued or anything like that? Typically not, but it depends on the district office, and I can't speak for that, but it's a very common occurrence. So I will definitely say that.
Okay.
So I was going to add in regards to Keith received a question about what's a small business for his program. When it comes to OCAP, I know we already had that question too in the chat. It's a common question, what constitutes a small business? So OCAP really will, provide information, with fact sheets and webinars, and this is open for all businesses, big or small. But when it comes to like permit applications, where we would do the application and, act as a consultant on your behalf, it is defined for a small business. And within the Clean Air Act, the definition really is businesses that employ 100 or less individuals. But that's kind of over time become a case by case in regards to what specific to the facility. So reach out to us, and then we can do an evaluation to see if our services are a good fit.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. We're running up against our time here, so we're going to wrap up here. We still have some questions that we didn't get to. We will reach out via email to get those answers to you. And I would really like to thank both Samira and Keith for the great presentations, and thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. Thank you to our behind the scenes team for helping our webinar run smoothly. Once you leave, we'd also like to bring your attention to our Encouraging Environmental Excellence Award program. It recognizes entities for exceptional achievements in environmental stewardship. Is your organization going beyond to reduce environmental impact? This program has several different levels of recognition for organizations, communities, and schools. Please go to our website on the slide to learn more about this program. We have some upcoming training. Our next webinar, as Samira mentioned, is next week, August 16th, Environmental Regulations of Businesses in Your Community. On September 13th, we have a webinar on dumping of solid waste and scrap tires. And on September 20th, we have NPDES permitting new and proposed rules and policies. So to register for these upcoming webinars, you can check out our new agency event calendar. And if you go on the next slide, there's a link there. The events calendar is also on our main web page. The link is on our web page footer at the bottom of every web page. To receive notifications of upcoming webinars, you can go to our Ohio EPA Customer Support Center, create an account, go to the option Subscribe to Updates, select the option All Trainings, Webinars, and Conferences, and you can go to that link on the slide. And this Customer Support Center link is also on the bottom footer of every web page. If you've missed past webinars, you can go to DEFA's webpage at the link on the slide. And once you're on the DEFA webpage, click on the word training on the left-hand menu column. Here you'll find recordings of trainings you may have missed. You can also go to our agency YouTube channel to review recorded webinars. We'll post the recording of this webinar to our YouTube channel. It usually posts within a week of the webinar. We also post a PDF copy of the PowerPoint slides with the recording. The YouTube channel link can be found at the bottom of every web page on the footer. And that icon's next to the Twitter icon on the bottom right-hand side. With that, we will end today's webinar. Thank you again for joining us, and have a great day.